I think a huge part of the American dream is building a better life for your kids than you had. And I think we can almost wholeheartedly say that that is not a possibility for the vast majority of people today in America. So, baby boomers own almost half of all US wealth, even though they're only 20% of the population. And I would argue that it's not necessarily because they individually made better choices about their money. A lot of it very much had to do with the economic context in which they're living in. And I want to give the caveat of like, yes, you can obviously make very deliberate choices about your money that puts you in a better position, but there is an element of luck and chance involved in your ability to make money and grow your wealth. And baby boomers really much grew up and started their working years in an economic environment that was very favorable to them. And some classic examples of this is that baby boomers tended to be able to afford homes more. When you think about like the median income times home price, it was much, much lower back then. Of course, their element of wealth is built into stocks that have been able to appreciate. They also entered the workforce during strong periods of economic growth, rising productivity, relatively high real wages, things like housing costs, tuition, healthcare, childcare. They were all dramatically cheaper relative to income. And I think also they were very much protected by a lot of policies. There were a lot of policies that were designed to help them get houses. There were things like pensions that, helped them a lot with retirement. And I want to explain that younger generations, when you think about the way that they're behaving with their money, it is very much a response to the economic environment that they are currently in. And so much of our current economic environment has really shifted for younger people. There's less stable employment that's been often replaced by gig work. Things like pensions don't exist anymore. It's much harder to buy a home. Things like housing costs, tuition, healthcare, childcare, they've all gotten dramatically more expensive relative to income. And the American dream is really built on the assumption of generational progress, right? Like each generation is going to do better than the last. When that assumption breaks down, it doesn't just affect your finances, it affects your relationship with money. And it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If so many people feel disillusioned, they become nihilistic and then they behave in potentially more reckless ways with their money because there's like, what's the point? And so again, like I said, it becomes this very self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think we're seeing a lot of that ring true. And I think this will continue to have vast economic repercussions in the years and decades to come.